It is 10 o'clock, so we'll start. First item on the agenda is apologies, and I have two from Councillors Paxton Hood-Williams and Councillor Tony Fitzgerald. Are there any others that we need to register? No? Okay. Item 2 is a disclosure of personal and prejudicial interest. Are there any members? No? Any officers? No? Okay. Item 3 is a standard item on all scrutiny panels, and that's prohibition of whip votes and declaration of party whips. Then we come on item 4, which is the previous meetings, previous minutes of the minutes of the previous meeting. Has everybody read them? Any issues with those minutes? And okay, then we move on. Item 5 is public questions. We haven't none at the moment anyway, and we haven't any notification of any. So there's no members of the public here. Item 6 is the achievements of corporate priorities, objections, policy commitment development. And I know the leader was to join us, but he obviously hasn't yet. So we have, lucky to have Mr. Phil Holmes, Head of Planning and City Regeneration. Over to you, Phil.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Yeah, so this report is an annual report that we bring to the committee just to give members an overview of the achievements delivered, specifically by the service. There are a few projects that involve other services as well, and how those achievements align with the corporate plan and the ambition of transforming Swansea's economy and infrastructure. I suppose if I was scoring our progress, I think we're doing really well. I think the message is that we've made a lot of progress across a wide range of programs. I think the report shows that the outputs, they're tangible, they're visible, especially some of the regeneration work on the ground. And it's good that all the work that we're doing is supported by a clear strategic framework and strong partnership working as well. Of course, we don't do everything on our own. We rely on others to help and join in with us. So if I could just sort of give a flavour of some of the things that we've been achieving this year, and maybe start with investment and funding programs. I've got Elliot Williams with me if there's any questions on this aspect, but it's good to see that Swansea's continued our role of leading regionally on both UK and Welsh government funding. The Shared Prosperity Fund, that's been very successful in terms of its delivery, and of course we've been in a transition year which has gone really well, and we've seen support and outputs achieved in terms of business support, skills, community schemes, and just looking at business support alone, that activity is set to create 168 new businesses and generate 177 new jobs, and safeguard nearly 200 jobs by the end of this financial year. So that's been fantastic for Swansea. Through the Welsh Government's Transforming Towns programme, again, we've been leading this regionally for some time now, very successfully, and we've delivered 12 completed placemaking schemes during the year, with over 700,000 grant funding invested and a further 19 schemes endorsed for delivery. And in addition to that, 26.7 million has been drawn down in loan funding to unlock development in the city centre and district centres, which is helping bring back vacant commercial floor space, bring it back into use, and use that investment to support job creation. And then I've got Lee Richards sat to my left. Lee is leading on lots of the regeneration work for the council. And again, the progress has been really, really strong. So at 71, 72 the Kingsway, we are 80% let in terms of the building. Major employers already in occupation, which you'll have read about in the press, and further tenants now in discussion. And of course, this building has been an important building for the city deal. this building alone will create capacity for up to 600 jobs and should contribute in the region of £32 million a year to the local economy. And pleasingly as well, we've also commenced work on Mowbray Yard, which is a very important project for us as a service. And that's going to create a landscape pedestrian link into the city centre. So pleased to see that one underway. Also at Castle Square Gardens, construction is now underway on site. Again, you'll have seen so much about this in the press, but it's about delivering a reimagined public square with increased greenery, new food and drink pavilions, and a focal point for events and gatherings. And likewise across the Copper Bay programme, the arena was completed, the bridge, the coastal park, the car park already open, and further elements are progressing now, including the commercial kiosks and the in discussions with the developer for the proposed 150-bedroom hotel next to the arena. In terms of community and cultural assets, both the Palace Theatre and the Albert Hall are now fully operational, and the new city centre community hub, Astorfa, opened in December, bringing together the library, the archive, advice services, and really a flagship facility for the council and for the city. We've also been delivering outputs in terms of planning and placemaking. The pre-deposit local development plan was approved by council. Extensive evidence work has been completed and preparations are now underway for the deposit plan, which will provide clear and up-to-date framework for future development decisions. And I think finally for me, the report highlights the social value outcomes being secured alongside regeneration. I think sometimes we forget about, we concentrate so much on the building, we forget about the impact that that building can have in terms of the construction process. And during 2025-26, over 1,600 targeted recruitment and training weeks have already been achieved through council development projects, which support jobs, apprenticeships, placements, work experience for local people, supply chain, all of those good things. So in conclusion, I think the report demonstrates strong progress across funding, regeneration delivery, business support, planning, and I hope you'd agree that there's some visible change happening across the city. So it is a report for information, but be delighted to have your views and any questions. And like I said, I've got Elliot and Lee here to help for anything that I'm not up to speed with. So thank you, Chair.
Well, thank you very much, Phil. Obviously, is there any Lee, do you want to add anything to that? Or Elliot?
No,
Okay,
I think Phil has summed it up. Thank you, Chair.
Elliot? Yeah. Okay. Leader?
Yeah, Chair, apologies. My previous meeting overran, so I've joined as quickly as I can. Just caught the end of what the officers are saying. And again, happy to take any questions that members may have on anything in the report. But obviously, hand back over to you and obviously invite questions from members.
Thank you very much, Leader. I have a number of members have indicated they wish to speak. In the best order that I can have them is first is Councillor Mark Tribe.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to confirm that some exciting projects have been completed already. Is fantastic for this city centre, and prospectively, it's looking good for the future as well. Of the 26.7 million earmarked from the current Welsh government, if there is a change of leadership at the Senate in the forthcoming elections, is that money likely to appear, or could there be further changes down the road? Thank you.
I think somebody needs a crystal ball to answer that one. Phil?
Yeah, and that figure refers to a loan fund facility that Welsh Government makes available to all local authorities. And the purpose of it is to try to get outputs achieved not by grant but by offering loans instead. And it's quite a recent sort of only the last sort of 5 years, I think it's become popular. This council's really gone for it in terms of using that as an opportunity to get investment. So I think we've issued more loans than any of the other authorities. So that figure that I referred to is loans that have actually been made already, and with legal agreements and assets secured in case of default. So that money comes back into the council that we can then reallocate it again in the future. So it's almost like an evergreen fund. But yes, if there is a change in leadership, government, then it may result in different priorities and different mechanisms, but we don't know yet. But we certainly have made good use of what we've had so far.
Leader, you want to come in on
Thank
this?
you for your answer.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with what Mr. Holmes has said. I think, look, Swansea has benefited significantly from the Transforming Towns Fund and from other loan opportunities that we've used to, as Mr. Holmes has said, to create that evergreen fund. It's really successful in terms of helping us with viability gaps on projects and helping schemes move forward. Again, no one can ever prejudge what a new government or the next government will do, but I don't think any of the governments are going to want to prevent the country from growing. I don't get that from any of the political parties, and certainly, would expect to continue to have a positive relationship from the city to the government. Certainly, we've got really good and effective working relationships, which I'm sure will sustain whatever the political arrangements are from officer to officer between council and Welsh government. And of course, they are just one of our government partners, because again, we are actively in discussions with UK government for equal support in terms of what UK government might be able to bring to Swansea. And again, we would hope that that would also start to bear fruit directly in due course in terms of our aspirations, because of course, one of the big success stories of the last few years has been that co-investment model through the City deal, which we've benefited from, where the UK government, the Welsh government, ourselves and the private sector have all invested together for the benefit of the city and the region.
Thank you. Okay, Mark. Then we move on to Councillor Di Jenkins.
Thank you, Chair. And can I just say, Phil, thank you for this extensive report. So the highlights for me are the Shared Prosperity Fund, as you said, having them 168 businesses, the 177 new jobs, and the safeguarding of the 199. The Kingsway deal, 32.6 million for our economy, and of course Skyline boosting it by up to 84 million. So that's the highlights for me. I got two questions. Number one, the Trailblazer 20 million over 10 years. Is that Davati and the end of High Street? That's the first question, number one. Question number two, Newcastle Square by Knight Brown. Do we have a set date for completion? And are there any penalties in the contract if they miss that completion date, please?
Phil?
Yeah, just in terms of the Trailblazer 20 million. Oh, hi, yeah, sorry. Just in terms of the Trailblazer 20 million, yes, that does cover Davati north of High Street. It's a collection of LSOAs sort of north of the Kingsway and wrapping around Swansea to focusing on Davati.
Okay, Dan.
And if I just address the Castle Square question, Chair, at the moment, the programme for Castle Square, we're looking to complete the scheme, hopefully by the end of this year, but more likely it'll be first quarter 2027. And yes, there are liquidated damages built into the contract with Knights Brown, the main contractor.
Okay, thank you. Next question is Councillor Mary Jones.
Thank you, Chair. Mine about hotels, where the late Hugh Mowbray used to come to development control Scrutiny, it was always like up on the agenda, and now it seems to have slipped a bit. So can we please, it's been mentioned this morning, can we have a bit more information? It was mentioned it was going by the arena, which we know the plot is there. Also, and I know the council has been very, very proactive in looking after the homeless, but there are an awful lot of B&Bs along Oystermouth Road, which I have asked the question before, that look as if they could have some help. And could we encourage them, because we've been told repeatedly that there's not enough bed space if there's something big on the arena, and that's within walking distance, and people could park up and just then walk to the arena, walk to the city centre. So it seems to be, I know they're in private ownership, but we do help people to do that. My next point is, Leader, I asked you about pets in Llysglas and the one on St Helens Road, I can't remember the name of it, which we recently gave planning permission to, because as we said, when we're trying to help homeless people, a lot of them have got, well, mainly dogs, and I want to know if there was any way they could take an animal. And the very last one's a point. It's in the leading implement of the Welsh Government funding, the Transforming Towns. For many, many years, and I've been here many, many years, Calais was a district shopping centre. In recent years, it's dropped off. Can anybody tell me why? Thank you very much.
Can the Leader, do you want to come in first?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. If I deal with some of those, I'm sure Mr. Richards will want to add a bit to what I say. In terms of the hotel, yeah, it remains an absolute priority. As Mr. Richards will no doubt tell you in a second, we've had to go back around the loop because of changes in the bidder process, which have caused us to redo a little bit of the procurement bit. But again, the delivery of the hotel next to the arena remains a priority, which we hope to see take steps into physical development very soon. But it's not the only hotel opportunity in Swansea. We are in discussions with other brands around locations for a new hotel within Porthcopper. And again, as soon as those get to a point where we have some detail that we can share, we'll obviously bring that forward for probably an in-camera session with members where we can give a lot more detail in terms of what that is. But we know that through the report that we were down about 3.5 large hotels in terms of capacity we needed to support the visitors that are coming to the city. So very, very keen to see those come online as soon as possible. In addition to that, you're quite right, Councillor Jones, the B&Bs along the seafront, they of course have the sort of long tail impact of COVID in that they were used primarily to make sure that people had safe spaces to shelter if they were homeless during COVID. They've continued to be used as temporary accommodation. The strategy that Councillor Councillor Harrington now has outlined in terms of the strategy of opening purpose built or purposely acquired temporary accommodation. One is open and another one is progressing to the point where we will be able to use it. That will allow us to reduce our need for use of B&Bs, and at that point, obviously, that's where we'll be looking and encouraging the return to those being tourist hotels or tourist B&Bs. I guess the other part we can't lose sight of either, because it is a big market now in Swansea, as it is in most big cities, is the Airbnb and private rent market. There's a lot of options for people if they want to stay in the marina and other areas in terms of Airbnb, and they are picking up quite a lot of the demand at the moment. So it's not just the provision through hotels and traditional accommodation, but the more recent developments in Airbnb, etc. So those are all things that we're aware of in the city centre, and we are seeing some quite big growth in those areas. On your final point, Councillor Jones, around the homeless provision for people with pets, I know a response. I have signed a response. I hope it's back with you now. I think I signed it off at the end of last week, so it should be with you. But I know in that response, it does outline that there are locations where we allow people who are seeking support for accommodation to take their pets with them. But obviously, we don't allow that in all locations, because there are some locations where people want to be in a location where there are no pets in the building. So, but we do provide that as part of our overall offering.
Thank you, Leader.
Sorry, my
Councillor
last
Lynn.
point about Clay. Sorry,
Oh.
about the district
Sorry.
shopping centre.
Okay, who's going to answer that? Elliot?
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Holly. Yeah, I'll just cover that. In terms of Calais, it is still classed as a district centre eligible for Transport Towns funding. I'd have to check to see if there's anything that's been received in terms of placemaking grants of late, but it did benefit from numerous economic recovery fund grants from the business improvement grants a number of years ago, in recent years.
Sorry, can I come back, Chair? But it was a designated district shopping centre. I want to know, you'll probably have to give me a written answer through the committee. Why did it change and when? Thank you.
Yeah, we'll come back on that one. Okay, Councillor Linda James.
Thank you, Chair. It's just a quick question about the Elysium. I wondered if you could have some more information about what is planned for it. I remember it as a very grand building, but that's a long time ago.
Who's going to answer that one?
I don't think there's anything planned at the moment. What we are trying to do is reach out to the owner to explore options more than anything. But yes, it is an important building. We want to secure the future of it. And yeah, we've enjoyed success, haven't we, recently with things like Palace Theatre, Albert Hall. So it doesn't seem this would be out of the question that we could, you know, perhaps save this one as well. But it is in private ownership, and the first step really is for us to explore what is the art of the possible, really, in terms of that discussions with the owner. Thank you.
Thank you.
Leader, do you want to come in on that?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Fully concur with Mr. Holmes. I think we may be able to say a bit more about that in a private session at a future point if members would like. But certainly, you know, we've been successful in unlocking the Palace and unlocking the Albert Hall. The Elysium is the other one of those buildings that has, you know, a historic facade and historic place in Swansea. But as Mr. Holmes has said, we haven't gained as much traction with the owner up to this point in terms of agreeing something that would allow that building to be unlocked. But the ambition is certainly there for the top of High Street.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Peter Black.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I've got a number of questions. So if I could start off with a process question. The Pride of Place programme, what is the decision-making process around that? I mean, I don't recall it coming to Cabinet or another committee, and yet we seem to have decided where that money is being spent. So what was the process around making that decision through the council's democratic structures?
Leader, do you want to answer that question?
Yeah, so my understanding is that we were required to respond to UK government with a defined neighbourhood under the criteria that UK government had set down for establishing a Pride in Place fund, board, etc. Obviously, there are requirements that the UK government laid down in terms of the numbers within the community. My understanding is that officers evaluated the areas where we have areas of deprivation and where areas score in terms of their need. And that's why the area from essentially from the bottom of Mayhill down past Griffiths John Street across the Batty and down to the top of the High Street at the railway station junction there was defined as one that met the population criteria, but also as part of the ensuring that we had a community that was cohesive, but that could demonstrate that it scored quite highly in terms of the needs of the community in terms of LSAO and stuff like that. We are in the process now of defining with UK government what is required in terms of a board to run the Pride in Place scheme. Obviously, there is £2 million a year available to invest in those communities, but that will be for the board to decide. It is not for the council or for elected members in the council to decide how that funding is allocated. It is community driven. The chair of the board needs to be independent. there will be political representation on the board, but 51% of the board has to be drawn by from the community itself. And the guidance is very clear that it needs to be a board of doers, of people who have interests and a presence in the community, whether that be through their work or through their living in the community, etc. So we're working through that process at the moment. And the first stage of that will be consulting with the community in terms of what they would like to see, whether people are interested in joining the board, and that will take place in the next few months.
But isn't that money being funneled through the council to that board? And therefore, shouldn't this be a report to Cabinet under the council's standing orders to actually authorise that expenditure?
My understanding, Councillor Black, is that it's about 150k at the moment that has arrived in order to help us set up the board and to put all that in place. And I'm sure when we get to a point where we know exactly what the detail of all that will be, we've got the outline at the moment, and obviously we've been in negotiations with the UK government around accessing that money and securing it. Those only arrived, I think, in the last week or so in terms of confirmations. And since then, obviously, the officers have been discussing the detail around that. Specifically, I think Paul Relf would be probably the person best placed to give an answer in terms of all the detail, which I'm sure we can lay out for you. But I'm sure that point you're making around the democratic oversight and awareness, that will come in due course.
Yeah, it's just that, the MP is tweeting about where this money's being spent, and councillors have had no say in this at all, or no proper scrutiny of this at all. And it does seem to me that the Welsh UK government is not just bypassing the Welsh government, they're now bypassing the council as well and telling us where the money has to go.
No, I have some sympathy with what you say in terms of the premature, I think, expectation raising by some members of Parliament, because obviously some members of Parliament tweeted that money potentially would be available when we knew in terms of the detail of the scheme that was unlikely to be delivering the sorts of things that the public might want. It was, I guess, some of it was very open-ended, statements from members of Parliament. What we have tried to do, though, is to work with the UK government in terms of the detail of the scheme to bring together a cohesive area that would be one that matched the criteria of the UK government. It is for the board to decide how it spends its money, not for the council. We are helping with the setup of the board, but it will be, and UK government criteria are very clear on this, it's not for the council to direct that funding.
Yeah, so they are bypassing the council. It'd be useful if we could ask in the letter to following this session.
Well, Councillor Black, I just got to say, I don't think they're bypassing the council, because obviously local members and members of the council will be members of that board. But it is clear it is for the community to decide on its own priorities, and I think that's absolutely right.
Yeah, I understand that. I'm just saying it'd be useful if, at the end of the letter, if we could get ask for a full breakdown of the actual process, how this works, and maybe Paul Relf could contribute to that, because he's obviously not here now. Can I move on then? Porth Copper, the new flexible office building. We last Scrutiny Programme Committee, we had a session on the council's accommodation strategy. And it's quite clear that we've been basically moving away from fixed accommodation, people working from home, etc. So I'm just wondering, in terms of this development, I think you said either 1 or 2 floors will be taken by council back office staff. Given that we're moving away from people working from offices, we've got desk sharing here, we've got people working from home. Are we actually going to be able to fill those floors? Is that a change in the accommodation strategy?
If I come back in on that, Chair, no. Again, I think that there is an easy way to confuse the statements. I think if you're looking at 2021, 2022, then the view coming out of COVID was that, people would be continuing to work from home in greater numbers, accommodation wouldn't be needed. And that played out in 2 ways. For lots of the cities where they had high densities of office accommodation, quality office accommodation, then clearly there was going to be a bigger impact in those areas than there has been in Swansea. For Swansea, we had no A-grade accommodation available. So the provision of things like 71, 72, the new developments like Princess Quarter, etc., which provide those, are seeing demand meeting supply. What we need to do is to ensure that we continue to have that balance. And in direct answer to your question, Councillor Black, you know, since the pandemic, we have seen a swing back towards a much more balanced approach, where people are spending several days in the office and then spending some days out of the office, rather than being all at home or all in the office. So it is that much more balanced approach, and that wash through more flexible space. And that's exactly what we had proposed anyway prior to COVID in terms of our agile working policy. I think in terms of the scale of Block B, obviously we're talking to UK and Welsh Government about potential tenancies in that block. We have a requirement for some space in that block, and obviously there is also a requirement for some retail tenants within that block around the active frontage at the bottom. So, and that's without even testing the market in terms of potential private tenants. So again, I don't think anybody on this meeting would say that Swansea's reached its potential in terms of the numbers of jobs we could have in the city centre, the number of businesses we could have or accommodate. That certainly isn't the case. But, you know, it is about taking those steps in a pragmatic way and trying to make sure that you have a high degree of confidence when you're beginning new developments.
Yeah, I wasn't suggesting that. I was just questioning whether it fitted in with the council's accommodation strategy, and you've made it clear that we're moving in a different direction on that accommodation strategy, so that's fine. My last question, the Palace Theatre and 7172 Kingsway, have we had the final accounts come to Cabinet yet? Because I don't recall seeing them, and if not, when are they likely to come to Cabinet? I noticed that we're getting a Storver's final accounts in a few months' time, but those two don't appear to have appeared yet.
Again, Chair. Sorry,
Mr. Richards, do you want to answer that question?
I was just going to say, Chair, I don't believe that they've come to Cabinet yet. So I assume that Mr. Richards can give us a timescale for those. And just to correct Councillor Black, I didn't say that we changed our approach on the accommodation strategy. We were already on agile working, where we had more flexible shared work office space. What I said was, in the post-pandemic, in the immediate aftermath of the pandemic, I think there was a view from many that the days of office working were over and that people would now continue to work from home primarily. That has proved to be untrue, and we have seen a drift back to a more balanced space. That was the point I was making, and our accommodation strategy remains in line with that.
Okay, well, that does sound like a change to me. Maybe we could have the answer to the final accounts.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, we're just working through the defects liability period of both schemes. So once that's concluded in the next couple of months, then we'll be able to finalise the final account and then bring that forward. I suspect it's probably going to be around the June, July-ish time frame.
For both of them?
Yes, I think.
Yeah. And in terms of the arena?
Because that's tied in with the wider Copper Bay.
Yeah.
As you know, we're working through the car park at the moment. That's due to complete at the end of June. So again, through the defects liability period.
Yeah.
Following that, it'll be later this year on the Copper Bay itself, and then we can give you a full breakdown of where we are, because obviously there's some negotiation to go on with the bond as well that you're aware of.
Can I ask, in terms of the car park, is it true that there's also defects found in the car park underneath the arena?
Underneath the arena?
Yeah, the other car park, the main car park.
Not that I'm aware of.
No, that's okay, is it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
On that issue, the Palace Theatre has been open a long time. The defects period, I'm not sure, was it 12 months or 18 months or 2 years? So I would have thought we're coming close to the end of that anyway. The other one on, what was the other one you asked about? Oh, 71, 72, the Kingsway. That's got some time to go though, hasn't it? But I know that there was a figure reported to the regional committee board, which was advertised in the Evening Post, and that I brought up in council about the fact that in the Evening Post it stated that £46 million was the final bill. Now, whether that is the final bill or not, I don't know. It's what was reported in the Post. So if those issues can, and the other thing about the car park underneath the arena was the ponding issue.
Mm-hmm.
The ponding issue was one which I'm not sure if you've cured that now, but that was a real issue with the fact that it was open, parts of it were open to the elements.
Yes.
And you had ponding issues around that. So I don't know if that has been cured anyway.
Okay. If I just address, first of all, the defect liability period for both properties are nearing completion, but obviously there are some defects which are still outstanding. Not many, that'll go over that period that we're just trying to finalise, just to make sure that it's all complete before we agree the final account, because we are withholding sums of money back on both projects. And the last thing we want to do is obviously give the money back if we've still got work to do. So almost there, as I said, and once we've got that, we can report back. Turning to the car park, yes, you're quite correct. As part of the design of Copper Bay originally, we created light wells. So the light could flow. It was all to do with safety and public safety of utilising the car parks, because and the airflow, because car parks, multi-storey car parks are sometimes seen to be areas of darkness and perceived as being unsafe. So we want to make sure that the new car park was light with natural daylight. Yes, there was water then holding through those areas. It was a levelling issue. That's been addressed as part of the defects liability period for the whole of the Copper Bay, which Andrew Scott are addressing for us, and will be completed now by the end of June.
That's the car park under the arena.
It is. It's the light well.
So there were some issues with that.
Only as Councillor Holly has said, it's just the water not draining off through those gaps.
Okay.
But for the ground, I thought. Sorry, you mentioned the ground. That there's no issues at all there. No.
No, I meant the car park.
The holding water. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's addressed through. It's the draining of the water.
Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Mike White.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yeah, my question is, I have two questions really in relation to the startup businesses. Are you able to let us know as how many of these new startups are actually local businesses, and also how does the council promote the scheme to encourage businesses to apply?
Yes, just on that question, yeah, all startup businesses are local. The eligibility area is for Swansea, and yeah, in terms of promotion, the business team actively engage via different networks, social media, and comms on the council website.
Are you actually? Sorry, are you actually let us know as to how many businesses within the last year then?
I think in the report we've given a total figure for the life of the SPF program, but I can come back with a written response on the number we supported in the last year. It's okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Councillor Will Thomas.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks for the report. It's clear to see, I think, some real progress being made across the city. So, congratulations to the officers, because it's clear to see that the city's definitely moving in the right direction. I've got two questions. If I could, well, one based on one thing, and if I could come back with a second couple of questions. The Civic Centre development, the first visuals that came out looked very ambitious. And the new lot which have come out, which I guess are probably more realistic in terms of delivery when it comes to how much it costs to implement these things. So if I could firstly get the opinions and answers on that. There seems to be a pier. How realistic is that the pier is going to be implemented? Because obviously we have a lot of problems with Mumbles Pier maintenance and everything like that. And do we really want to pick up a liability for a pier there? The sea pool, I think, is a fantastic idea for tourism driver and a new tourism offering for the city. One of my other questions then is the aquarium. What made us arrive at the idea that a digital aquarium is a good idea? Because I'm not professing to be an expert on tourism by any means, but it doesn't seem like a great idea to me. So long term. So if we could first get those answers to those, and then we'll, if I could come back, please. Thank you.
Leader, do you want to come in on these issues?
Yeah, I'm sure Mr. Richards will want to add to what I say. I think, look, I don't believe that the imagery does suggest a pier. It's more of a boardwalk type approach. So we're not proposing to build a second pier in Swansea. There, as Councillor Thomas quite rightly says, there are challenges in maintaining those structures in the sea. In terms of the Lido, I agree with him. It's absolutely great idea. The scheme has been updated to focus on the elements that we believe are ones that can be delivered in that first phase, because the first phase are looking essentially at what could go into a repurposed civic centre, including the aquarium, the saltwater Lido outside, and then the repurposing of the centre itself. There are other parts to the site, because the site is quite big, as you will appreciate, in terms of the car park, both the east and west sides, and again, those will be additional phases. The other thing I would say in terms of the final question around what made us arrive at a digital aquarium, I think that the point here, it was never a fully live exhibit aquarium we were proposing. It was never fully digital aquarium we were proposing. It was always a facility and an attraction that had several elements to it. So we did look at the Queensland Cube originally, which again, I would suggest members take a look at. It's a really interesting facility. And I think the concept, the takeaway for us on that is that by having some large scale digital exhibits in there, you can then refresh your offering, your educational offering as part of the overall aquarium draw. So for instance, you can repurpose part of the aquarium from showing marine exhibits into showing perhaps paleontology or prehistoric or dinosaurs, other stuff that continues to refresh the offering, which can be done very easily alongside those live exhibits that people might want to wish to visit. The other part for us was always around what can we do to tie up the aquarium's offering with the fantastic work that Swansea University do in terms of its marine biology research, because they are a leading university for marine biology. So the aspects around conservation and other stuff, and how do we tie that into what potentially an aquarium could offer. So just to say, yes, digital plays a part, and again to look at the options whereby that's been successful, but it was always to be something that offered several different things, not just one thing. And again, the operators of the aquarium have been down a number of times now. We were again with them a few weeks ago, and again remain really positive about the opportunities in Swansea.
Okay, well.
Yeah, if I may come back, Chair, with my next questions. Firstly, I mean, on the response to the aquarium, I think a digital museum that, you know, and which offers several different things, different exhibits, different topics, that kind of makes a bit more sense to me. Digital aquarium, I think, is well, I just still don't see it. My next questions. We did a bay strategy a number of years ago, which from memory was based from St Helens down to sort of Mumbles, and nothing seems to really have progressed with that or any of the sites that were identified in there. So I was just going to ask how that's progressing, if at all, and if anything's going out for tender, where we are with that. And the next one, my final question then, is around the Swiss cottage. I asked a question in council, and I see the Swiss cottage as it could be a really good development for Sketty. It could be a real community hub, community centre for Sketty, with a nice play area next to it, and a nice cafe or some kind of offering. So I understand that lease has been surrendered now. So how are we getting on with that, and what's the ambitions for that site? Thank you.
Thank you. Who's in sick?
Chair, do you want me to bring up the bay sites? I think we went out to with a pin notice on that. I don't believe we've had any significant interest from developers in picking up specific sites, but obviously having considerative, appropriate development on those sites that we'd identify still remains the ambition. I think if Councillor Francis Davis were here, he'd be talking about those pearls around the bay, those stop-off points that can offer people opportunities to enjoy a meal or a rest or have a leisure attraction around the bay still remains the ambition. But obviously we're not trying to turn Swansea Bay into a Benidorm with high-rise buildings, etc. That's not the aim. It's just that considerative development. And again, we continue to look for opportunities if developers or investors want to come along with unique ideas on how they could develop some of those sites. So that remains an option. On the second point around Swiss Cottage, again, gave a response on that at council. Disappointing that the interested party had to surrender the lease and doesn't want to take the Swiss Cottage forward, but we still are looking for an appropriate partner or tenant who can take that forward. There are constraints with Swiss Cottage because it's in the middle of a park. It doesn't have significant amounts of parking outside and all those things that people who run coffee shops or restaurants would want. So it is a more challenging location. It is a beautiful building. So again, it's finding the right tenant with the right ideas and the right offering to be able to take on that facility.
If I may just come back very quickly, Chair. When we're talking about the bay sites, I mean, you said that we're open to suggestions from developers coming forward, but sending out good thoughts probably isn't enough of a strategy to see any development on those. Is it? If we do genuinely want to see the offering improved along the promenade from Swansea to Mumbles, I mean, is there more than pin notices Black Hill, for example, could be I think we could do a much better offering at Black Hill and offer better toilets, changing facilities as a part of another facility and somewhere else. So is there anything more that we can do there?
Can I interrupt you there, Will, and the leader? I'm going to ask Phil to come in here because back in 2000 and I think it was 10, we had a bay strategy, and part of the bay strategy was what is now the secret bar cafe opposite St Helens. But what the plan was, I'll leave the officers tell you what the rest was, but I'll come back on that as well.
Yeah, just to bring things up to date, there has been some work carried out, re-looking at the bay. Lots of the things that were conceived back in 2010 still hold true, and lots has been achieved as well. But a new strategy is in a draft state at the moment, and so that will be working its way through the approval process. It's led by colleagues in culture and tourism, so it's not something I'm very, very familiar with, but I am aware of it, and I think it's a good piece of work that hopefully members will recognise as realising the potential of the bay as we move forward. But of course, it's going to set a programme for many years of investment, but that's coming through the system at the moment, but it's still very much in draft.
Can I comment on this? When the original bay strategy was done, it was done by consultants, and part of that consultancy was the fact that how we attract people without ruining the actual perception of Swansea Bay. To take the analogy that the leader said about being Benidorm, there was a couple of things that was looked at, and one was where the golf putt and chase thing was, because of the nature of the land and because it's common land, there was no idea that we should build on that. But what we should do is recreate what we had where opposite St Helens, the secret bar and kitchen, maybe 3 or 4 of them, one at the car park at the bottom of Sketty Lane, another further down by Black Hill. But the other concept was, how do we develop Black Hill, Lido, etc. And again, you had to take into consideration the planning considerations, because you couldn't build anything with a couple of stories there, because I think the planning officers would have a fit. When you consider that, at one stage Swansea Council bought houses to demolish on the sea, on the left-hand side of Oystermouth Road and Mumbles Road, so that would enhance the view. So there are a number of issues that surrounding it, and it was that consultation, and as Phil said, it's going to be updated, and I think it'd be interesting to find out what happens when we see the updated version of it, because it is part of the problem also is parking, and that has been an issue, and not completely cured by the Klein bottom or the Klein car park, but an issue about parking, and especially down Mumbles, and how we get people back and forth. But again, we'll wait and see what that consultation exercise and the draft review comes out with. I hope that helps. Councillor Jeff Jones.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. And it's my fault for being so late and actually putting the question in. Some of the points have actually been raised already, especially the location, really, why we've actually identified, I think it's Upper High Street, Davati, and I think a part of Town Hill or whatever. But these businesses, 168 new businesses, I'm assuming are one-person startups by the number of jobs created. Will these businesses have to actually be part of that location? Are they restricted to that location? And what sort of range of businesses are we actually talking about?
Elliot?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, in terms of they are startups, so they are one and two sort of person startups. We've also supported. There's been a growth grant scheme as well for established businesses that are looking to grow. So we can provide further information on that if you'd like. But yes, they are local businesses. Predominantly, it's items like equipment and fit out items and things like that for maybe shop units. There's quite a diverse range of businesses that have been supported, from sort of coffee shops to dark shops to all sorts of different things, really, throughout district centres, and it's not restricted to, say, the city centre or anything. It is sort of pan Swansea. So quite a diverse range of businesses that have been supported to start up.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have a list, really, of what we're actually talking about. So just to clarify, those businesses have to be located in this particular area.
Within Swansea, yeah.
Within Swansea, so they're not restricted. Yeah. I'm sorry, you're very quiet. I can hardly hear you.
Can I suggest, Jeff, that what we do is we ask for a list of these businesses and where they are, but it would have to be done in a confidential matter, because we can't have that list in a public domain. Am I right in saying that? Yeah. So I think we can have it, but the way it's delivered would have to be different. Okay?
Yeah, but just to confirm, those businesses have to be located in this area, or are they Swansea-wide?
The Swansea wide, Jeff. They can't.
The Swansea wide, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's got to be within the city and county of Swansea.
Okay, I have another little question, just personal interest, really. I think it was mentioned about the Kingsway generating 32 million for the local economy. How was that figure actually? How do we get to that figure?
It's actually undertaken by an economics specialist that has a number of algorithms that relate to supply chain, money spent in the economy, and it's a scheme and an algorithm which has been agreed by UK government and is used throughout the UK. As for how you arrive at the magic numbers, I'm afraid that's a little bit beyond me. But if you want, I can get a breakdown. We use a company called Amian, who again were recommended and used by the UK government, and I can ask them to set out for you how they actually arrive at through the algorithms, if you wish, Councillor.
That would be very interesting. I'd appreciate that.
And Jeff, Phil.
Yeah, I mean, Lee is spot on, but just to add one thing, I suppose, when these economic impact assessments are carried out. There's loads of multiplier effects that are considered, and you've got to have a standardized approach for it. So the Treasury have got, I think it's the Green Book.
Yeah.
So they've got a methodology that our consultants will have used to work out those figures, and you can't deviate from that methodology. So if it comes out as 32 million, the methodology is arrived at that figure. It's not none of it is wishful thinking. It's based on what the jobs are, where the money's spent, and then the multiplier effect of that. So that's the process that the consultants would have used.
Yeah, any information you can forward, I'll be very grateful.
Can I suggest the Green Book is based on a long time consultation? The main problem with the Green Book is regional variation, and that is something which is a determination which is made by the consultants, because the determination about what is affordable in the southeast may not be the same in the southwest, and the Midlands is different from the northeast. So part of the way in which the Green Book works is there's an element in there of regional distribution, and that is the one that causes a lot of issues. Now, whether that £32 million is a legitimate figure based on the comparison with the southwest of Wales, with the rest of Wales or the rest of the UK, is something that if they can get a breakdown to it, you will see what that comparisons are. It is not. It is an equation which I think even Ben Smith would have problems working out. It is a difficult one, but we'll wait and see what comes out of the from Amlin. Okay.
Yes.
Councillor Mark Tribe.
Thank you, Chair. Obviously, the closure of the Marks and Spencer store was something of a body blow to the city centre. I just wondered during negotiations, what were the intentions of the executive members of this business, whether they want to remain in the city centre or whether they're looking at the outskirts. Thank you.
Who's going to answer that one? I'll be perfectly honest with you, Mark. I'm not sure anybody knows the answers to that, because there was a tweet on. Who's that? Oh, sorry. Up to you then, Leader.
Chair, apologies. I may not have the answer, but Councillor Tribe froze on my PC, so I only caught the last couple of words. I wonder if you could repeat the question for me. Apologies. I had a bit of a Wi-Fi glitch, I think.
Mark, do you want to reiterate your question, or do you want me to say it, or?
Yeah, I'm perfectly happy for you to carry on.
What Councillor Tribe is looking to find is an answer to a question, which is where are Marks and Spencers wanting to go, and do we have any idea if it's city centre or outside the city centre? Is it a food store, or is it just a store, a general purpose store?
Yeah, again, it's difficult to give too much information in the public domain, but I think we've been really clear as of Marks and Spencers that they are looking for a location that allows them to have a significant amount of parking directly outside their store. That is the type of business model that they are following. That's why 90 other branches across the UK have closed, and then some have relocated to other locations. I think the aim here has to be twofold, really, to ensure that we find a suitable site for Marks and Spencers within Swansea, but also to try and ensure that that site is as close to their current location in the city centre as possible. So that remains our aim, but I can't go further than that in terms of where we believe Marks and Spencers might already be looking.
Thanks, Leader.
Okay, Mark. Are there any other members with questions? Okay, if not, can I go through with some of the questions I have and comments? The regional economic delivery plan, I know it's part and parcel, the city deal was included in it as well. Now that the city deal is slowly coming to a close, how is that delivery plan? I see it's got the city centre area framework and the placemaking plan. When can we expect to see anything that coming out of that? Or
Yeah, so the regional economic delivery plan was first produced just after the COVID pandemic, and it was obviously an attempt to try to get the regional economy back on track. We've recently carried out a review or a refresh of it. It was a 10-year strategy. And so what we've done is a mid-term review, really, to just check that now that we're out of the pandemic and things have settled down, okay, there's still loads of challenges that we've got, but what is the direction of travel? And we've done the review and concluded that the regional economic delivery plan still holds good. So we're going to continue with the priorities and ambitions set out there. And what we've also done as well is refreshed the project pipeline, which I think is the point that you were getting to. So it's the actions that underpin the strategy. We've refreshed that as well. So we've tried to streamline some of the projects to make some of them more regional. Certainly some of them are major projects, and each local authority in the region will be bringing those forward. So for us, it'll be things like the civic centre. It'll be things like the river corridor, those major investments. And if you look at the plan and see Carmarthenshire, you see Pentrawl, and in Pembrokeshire you'll see the energy projects, and Neath Botol, they've got their transport rail projects. So there's all sorts of major projects, there's regional programs, and again that will take us now up to the end of 2030, I would guess. So that'll be monitored by the CJC because it's got a regional status, and we'll bring the local projects through.
Yeah, and the city projects.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. On the Pride in Place programme, my understanding is part of it is based on the lower super output areas, and the Castle Ward being one of them. But I also understand there's also a social element within it, and but I don't quite understand all of it. So when we have got a far better picture of how that is going to be laid out, and if we can have it report back to Scrutiny, and it'll be a few months yet, I would have thought. On the jobs issue, which is always one which is very important for us to understand. As I said, when Councillor Jeff Jones asked the question, it would be nice if we could have some sort of indication about where and off these businesses are. We don't expect a new car plant or anything of that nature, but it would be nice to what they are. And the other thing is how are we safeguarding the 199 jobs? Because I think that's also very important to understand. Are we doing it through some form of grant funding or whatever? But it was interesting to hear you say about loan funding, because once we left the EU and we lost structural funds, at the end of the structural fund period, they were moving over to a loan-based system, as you well know. And that loan-based system was there's a number of different categories, but it's interesting to see that we have now adopted that because of the fact that the grant culture was actually not working to the benefit of these companies. So it would be nice to know how we are securing those 199 jobs. I think that a number of the other questions have been asked. The St. Thomas site, the regeneration and the redevelopment of that, it's now going to be high quality housing. with there has been plans about what have you. Obviously, the site was owned by the council, and did we have also Welsh Government input into that site as well? So would we be repaying any money to them like we do on the enterprise zone? Because obviously a lot of that was joint development, and I was wondering if the St Thomas site was the same. Can't discuss the Elysium at the moment because I think that's really about it. I think there's been quite sufficient about the rest of it, you know. But the only other thing I would ask is, it was interesting, the question from Councillor Will Thomas about the aquarium. I think for the last 30 years, we have been inundated. I don't know, Lee is smiling because I think he knows as well as I know that we've had people come to us and they threaten to build an aquarium and what have you. A real one, not a digital one, by the way. But if you look at SeaWorld, who are the major developers of aquaria in the UK, you will find that business model is very, very precarious. And over the years, most of them have come to the city council. We've turned them down flat because they probably want about 30-40 million pound off the council, and then it's like having a 50-meter swimming pool with different fish in it that you got to look after all the time. And believe you me, it is incredibly expensive. So the idea of an aquarium is very, very nice in places with a massive throughput of visitors, which we haven't. Leader, you want to come in?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Just to correct that, again, I don't want you or anybody giving an impression that the council is preparing to hand over £50 million to an aquarium operator. That is not the case. And secondly, I guess as we've discussed previously, there's a difference in ambition, I guess. We want to see an aquarium coming into Swansea. We want that to be a viable offering that adds to the tourism offer for Swansea, adding to the arena and other stuff. So yes, there are examples, I'm sure, where they've got it wrong, but I'm also confident that there are examples where they've got it right. There are lots of aquariums around the UK that are operating successfully, as there are around the world. And it isn't, just to correct members, a digital aquarium. It is an aquarium that has some digital aspects to it, in the same way as there are lots of attractions that have digital aspects to them as part of their offering. And that goes to the core of how are you able to run a facility that can refresh its offering regularly and refresh the opportunity to entice more visitors to have return visits into that facility. So just wanted to clear up any misunderstanding that might be taken from your comments, Chair. We aren't preparing to hand over £50 million. That would be absolutely wrong.
Yeah, I obviously didn't hear what I said. I said operating an aquarium is a very expensive thing and could be very expensive for the council. That's what I actually said. And I said a digital aquarium, I've no knowledge of how it works, but it's certainly going to be cheaper than a dirty big pool full of fish. I can assure you, it is very, very expensive to operate. That's what I said, and I agree with you about the council needs to be very careful about how it invests in that. The only other thing I was going to ask is about the Swansea market, and I noticed that we're going to change going to upgrade the entrances. When is that about to start?
Some works have been done already in preparation, but the main works, we've got our contractor on board. There's some final sort of details that have got to be agreed, but yeah, it'll be very soon now. I can't give you an exact date, but yeah, we've got everything in place, the designs and everything, and just final points to make sure it's all in place very soon.
Okay, the final thing which I've written down here about, and that is, we've had the concept of what the civic centre or what Urban Splash are proposing, Are they also proposing new blocks of flats in the car park?
There's, I think one of the other councillors brought it up earlier. There's a master plan for the whole of the site. So it's a 17.5 acre site that includes both car parks. And as the leader said, at the moment, we're just looking at one element of that master plan, which is the delivery of the civic centre. And we're all hoping that'll be an enormous success. It'll be, a destination for everybody, especially if you can attract a leisure use into it, like an aquarium. And I think then from there, then we can look at what the additional use, the additionality of those car parks will be. You'll obviously need to retain car parks for customers, for the civic and for an aquarium or leisure use. But I think it's very much hoped at this stage that there are elements of land, as is shown in the master plan, that can be used for more residential use, and that'll probably be a mixture of some housing and flats coming forward in the due course. And that's probably one of the best sites in the UK, I'd suggest. And it's hoped that then the income that could be received from the disposal of some of those sites will help cross-subsidise additional work and infrastructure that will be needed around the site.
Yeah, because on the images that we've seen, the car park Paxton Street side and the Western car park, you did see some blocks of flats on it. I was wondering if that's included in the master plan.
It's in the current master plan, Chair. But as I said, it's a master plan. Master plans do change over time as interest comes forward. But at the moment, yes, it's an important route that takes you from the arena down the ramp, and it's that link then from the ramp into the city centre, into the civic building.
Thank you very much. Anyone else on any? No? Can I thank the officers and I thank the leader for the comprehensive review of the achievements against the corporate priorities, and thank you. If you want to, more than welcome to stay for our recycling annual performance monitoring. I'm sure you'll find it incredibly interesting. So thank you again.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you all.
Can I move on to the next item, which is item 7, and ask Councillor Cyril Anderson if he'd like to start the report, and then ask Rachel for a review. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. I'd like to thank you for the invite. Also to Matt Perkins, who's the author of the report in front of you. What this report is about is the monitoring of Swansea Council's recycling performance against Welsh Government statutory targets and the Council's waste strategy, providing assurance and progress settings, context for future policy directions. The key points of this report are the statutory targets 2024-25. We reached 70% of recycling and composting. Swansea achieved performance was 71.7 and is ranking the 3rd highest local authority in Swansea, the highest performing city in Wales and the UK. Year on year, the improvement, our recycling improvement, was 1.2% compared with 23-24. Why this matters is missing the statutory target could expose this council to financial penalties of at least £250,000 per 1% below target. Performance is achieved despite structural challenges, including large commercial sectors, student population, and high proportion of flats and high density housing. Swansea also has the 3rd lowest net household waste expenditure per household in Wales, and indicating a strong value for money. Drivers of improved performance, increases tonnage of recycling materials collected, reduced non-recycling waste, and positive impact of Welsh Government workplace recycling legislation from April 2024, particularly in the commercial sector. The waste strategy position is the waste strategy 22-25 action plan has been fully delivered.
A new long-term strategy has been delayed due to operational disruptions and policy uncertainty. Cabinet has approved an interim future cycling ambitions plan for January 2026 to guide short-term improvements while national policy directions become more clearer. I'll stop at that, Leader, because
Oh, no, wrong one.
yeah, Chair, I think you've all read the report, and I'll just open it up to questions and have Rachel at the side of me to answer if any.
Rachel, would you like to add anything to the report?
No, I think Councillor Anderson's covered it all well, Chair. Thanks very much.
Okay, Councillor Peter Black.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I've got two questions. First of all, in terms of the new containers which are being rolled out for plastics, tins, etc., paper, and when is that likely to come into force, and when are we going to be seeing the rollout programme for that? And the second one, could you actually give us more detail on digital waste tracking and how that works and what it involves?
Thanks, Councillor. We're looking to roll out probably just before the start of the summer. It's going to be a very slow rollout where we do it per round like we've done it previously. And we've already committed that we'll send members out the full plan of what and when it's developed. We're still working on that plan. But yeah, it will be before the summer, but we reckon it'll take us about 6 months to get it all fully rolled out. So it's we learn as we go, and make sure there's as limited service disruption. And on digital waste tracking, this is very much so it's a UK-wide initiative, and it's to prevent waste crime. So it is about us for every we have to now every bit of waste that comes into to the baling plant in Llansamlet gets weighed. Every type of waste has a code, and then that waste then goes off. Say if it's a bit of steel, it'll go off to a steel reprocessor. They might do something with it, but they might then send it to 6 or 7 other places. And the point is that all of this is going to become digital, whereas before it was like paper weighbridge tickets. So there's going to be a national system of being able to track it through, overseen by NRW and Environment Agency and led by UK government to stop waste crime coming forward.
Okay.
And that's across, I should say, the entire industry, not just local government. So it impacts all sectors of the waste chain.
I was a bit concerned that you might be putting electronic devices in our bins, but so basically you're going to barcode every bit of waste then.
It's not the waste can't be barcoded.
No.
It's the transportation of it, and so being able to map that. Say 44 tons was picked up in a lorry, and we took it from destination A to destination B. That then gets logged. But obviously, destination B might then take in hundreds of other tons or thousands of tons from other places, and they might then pull all of that together and send it to many destinations. And it is meant to then, but to electronically track all these destinations through to stop, particularly fly tipping. Some of the there's been some big articles across particularly BBC last few weeks on the size of illegal waste crime, and very much coming from the commercial sector. The municipal sector has been quite highly regulated for quite some time because of waste data flow. So we are audited every year. Our tonnages comes in, it goes out, we have to demonstrate our end destinations. But what that's doing so far, that has still been quite a manual process. But the move to digital tracking will ensure that that's all available via a database and available to be seen by the regulators.
Yeah, I was going to ask in terms of the commercial sector, because first of all, commercial waste is voluntary who they go with. So we don't deal with all the commercial waste. So the private companies who deal with that waste, and of course there are private companies elsewhere who deal with municipal waste as well, are they going to be subject to this, and who's going to enforce and regulate that?
Yep, so it's the entire waste industry, and for Wales it'll be Natural Resources Wales will be the enforcement body.
Yeah, okay. Chris shares my view.
I just ask about the waste in black bags, the stuff which is not recycled? Is that still going to Sweden? Or is some of it going to Sweden, not all of it?
Some of it is still going abroad, yes.
But they'll be able to track it
Yeah.
in Swedish.
Okay, Councillor Linda James. Sorry.
Thanks, Chair. Just a couple of questions. The first, I noticed that we're going to start collecting plastic film, and I just wondered exactly what does plastic film include?
Thanks, Councillor. So we've got a trial of 20,000 households at the moment, funded by Welsh Government to take the receipt of plastic film in small plastic bags. So plastic film is the bags that your potatoes may come in. It's got a slight stretch to it. So it's not a crisp packet. It could be a plastic carrier bag. So it's that sort of product.
Not cling film and stuff that's on. Yes.
So as long as it's got that slight stretch to it, then it's plastic film. That is absolutely fine. Now, at the moment, and the report to Cabinet made it clear, we don't have the infrastructure at the baling plants yet to increase the provision of plastic film to all of residents in Swansea, but we really want to keep it going. The trial isn't just about collecting it, it's about how you sort and bulk it at the baling plant, and also to test the end market, because we have to have a sustainable end market to deal with these materials. Now, clearly, Swansea are having an investment from J Plus. There's one coming into the Enterprise Park soon. Currently, we're working with J Plus and they're sending it to Birmingham. So we're hoping over time, when their factory gets up and running, that there will be provision in Swansea. So Swansea Waste going for Swansea jobs would be brilliant. We are on pathway and talking to Welsh Government about going through their bidding process to upgrade the baling plant. We can get new technology in there and create extra space, so that we would then be able to increase plastic film across the whole of the city. The feedback from the 20,000 residents has been very popular. The tonnage is small, the recycling contribution is small, but actually the impact on the black bags is quite big, because this stuff is quite bulky, even though it's very light, and it gets in the way. There's also, this is in train with where national policy is going. It's in the report. For workplace recycling statutory regs, Welsh Government are looking to make that compulsory from 2027, plastic film collections. So again, we have to be on this journey to be able to respond and react. So it is a really positive one. There's only Swansea and the Vale of Glamorgan were the two trial authorities in Wales to learn about how to deal with this material and the market. And, we really want it to continue and look to expand in the future.
Good. I take mine to one of the local supermarkets. The other question I had was on wax paper. My understanding is it's not recyclable. I've noticed a lot of retailers are now using wax paper cartons rather than plastic, which, as long as it's not black, is recyclable. So am I right that wax paper can't be recycled?
Do you mind if I respond that in writing so we can get the actual answer from our off-taker, because sometimes their requirements will change?
All right. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Matthew Jones.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. And I think we should be celebrating the fact that we've exceeded our statutory target with regards to our recycling figures, and it's, pay tribute to obviously the hard work of the collection staff that we have, and obviously the officers working on it. Just to sort of a step back on the plastic film element. Obviously, Rachel mentions it's been a successful pilot. And we obviously like to roll it out, I'm sure, to all residents in Swansea. If we were in a position to roll it out to residents in Swansea and were able to process it at the baling plant, what containers would we be using to collect it? I'm not sure if I've frozen there, Chair.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, Matthew, thank you. Rachel.
Yeah, the pilot, they're using small single-use plastic bags for the material to go in. So again, it's straight taken in, and that bag too can be part of the recycling journey. So residents are provided with a small receptacle, and currently that is then just put out for collection in with the plastic bottles, and the crews then at the baling plant are pulling it out as they go. And that's what we were testing as well, was that operation at the baling plant, or whether or not we need a separate sort of receptacle on the lorry to collect it.
Okay,
Yeah, sorry, Chair. Yeah, sorry, Chair. If I can just come back in, I suppose with us trying to sort of go to more reusable receptacles, I suppose the one-use plastic bags, is that something we'll have to look at, Rachel? Is it?
I think we would in the future, but at the moment, again, said we were trying to. The Vale Glamorgan we're using, they were putting it quite loose because they do curbside sort, and they were using a separate receptacle. So from this, it was to help inform what is the best practice and how does the market receive the material as well. So that's why it's always good to try different collection methodologies to help inform future service redesign for everybody. Both systems seem to work well. So I think you are absolutely right that if not, when we look to roll this out citywide, we'll have to relook at the receptacles we use at that time. And I'm sure committee would want to be involved in that.
Okay, Matthew. Councillor Peter Black.
Just follow up on, I mean, in terms of the soft plastic, how do you ensure you get a clean plastic there? 'Cause I mean, that's going to be more difficult. You can wash the plastic you put in the pink sacks, but that sort of stuff is going to be contaminated quite a lot more, I imagine. And the second question, Tetra Paks. I mean, I know you can take the tip. I've got about 6 months worth I've got to take up to the tip at the moment. But I mean, are we going to be doing any curbside collection of Tetra Paks?
Well, I wish, all recycling was clean, but it isn't. And again, that's part of the trial for JPLAS to understand the quality of the material coming in and can it be dealt with. And the feedback to date has been it's all okay. It's not as contaminated actually as we thought it might be. So we're okay to proceed on that basis. And again, that's why we do trials, isn't it, to learn these things. With regards to Tetra Paks, it just is dependent on the market. We would love to collect everything more at curbside, but if the market isn't there to take it, and even if you pool everything together, it still sometimes isn't sufficient for the market to come forward.
But you are taking recycling
We'll
centres.
take them at the recycling centres, but it just comes down to the facilities at the baling plants to pull that material out. You see, so at the recycling centres, they'll keep it separate from day one, won't they?
Yeah, I'm talking about separate collection.
Yeah.
Separate curbside collection. So you won't have to do that.
I think what we started to look at, and it's referred to in the January's cabinet report, and this is one of the reasons why the strategy, the longer term strategy, wasn't put forward this year, as well as all the stuff that is going on nationally, is we really do need to look at all of the different collection options and then tie that in with fleet replacement towards the end of the decade. So things such as Tetra Paks, plastic films, what else, small electrical, how do we collect as much as possible at curbside in the most effective way? So I think that was the sort of thing that will come in the next
I think I must be the exception in terms I put my Tetra Paks aside and take them up to the tip. But I imagine that quite a lot that's going to end up in black bag waste, and people's black bag waste is going to be bulkier because of all those Tetra Paks that are going to be in there. Yeah.
Councillor Mark Tribe.
Thank you, Chair. This is an item of observation for Rachel Percival. Apologies, Rachel. I forgot to declare an item of personal interest at the meeting's inception. My eldest daughter is the senior manager at the waste baling site in Llansamlet. I'd like that recorded, please. Thank you.
Okay, Mark, we'll make a note of it anyway, and you'll have to fill in the form. You can get one online, I think. Okay.
Thanks, Chair.
Anyway. Okay, are there any other members?
Chair, my virtual hand's not working. Can I come in.
Oh,
Sorry.
sorry.
It's all
Yeah,
right.
carry on, Will.
It's all right. My virtual hand won't go up for some reason. I'm not sure why. Just two questions from me. One around, it seems that we don't no longer collect boxes at the curbside. They have to be in bags. I'm just wondering what the thinking behind that is, because obviously, personally, I can only speak for myself, but you know, we used to pack as much as we could into the box and just put a sort of box out and it'd be full with other cardboard. But they don't seem to be collecting those anymore, and obviously they then have to go into a bag, which seems pointless, but I'm sure there's a reason for it, and so I'd be intrigued to know that. Secondly, I'm just wondering, I did ask this question last year, and I'll hopefully continue to ask it again in the future. But with, I don't think we do any recycling of the sort of black bag waste. And I understand that goes through some kind of processing, and I'm wondering if there's been any advancements in sort of taking, recycling the black bag waste. Whether I've seen online, for example, some AI sort of identifying different parts of rubbish and picking it up. I'm sure that's a long way off, but I'm just wondering if that's been looked into by the council at all, and if that's progressed. Thanks.
Thanks, Phil. Rachel?
Yes, the first one, the cardboard, is we want the cardboard to be as dry as possible. Now, the UK, Swansea, it's a very wet place, particularly this year. And that is the primary reason, is we need the material as dry as possible. Appreciate it may get rained on if people haven't done the bag up. We will say there's no limits to the number of bags that people can have. Appreciate, yes, if you've bought a large item, there's a lot of cardboard, but it is for that ease. And also you've got to think of the compactors. If you've got a massive TV box, that even the compactors and the lorries could really struggle with that. Yeah. And so it's operational efficiency, but the primary reason is the dictate of the market. And for us to get the best income, we need the material to be dry. In terms of the pre-sort of black bag waste, that's what it's called. We have a small bit with some of what's called POPs in terms of, with one of our waste contractors, we'll do a bit of a pre-sort to pull recycling out. I'm being honest, at the moment, it is a manual job. If it is done, it is not a nice job. I have been on a black bag picking line, and it's not that good. But also what is important is that we do get recycling from the black bags at the rear end. So after it's been gone through the energy from waste process, it actually produces a material called bottom ash that can be used in construction. That will give us a recycling rate of 19 to about 20 to 30% of the waste going in actually then gets used in construction materials. So we do get a recycling rate from our residual waste, even without a pre-sort.
Okay, Will?
Yeah, thanks, Joe. Thanks.
Okay. Any other members? So can I ask a couple of things, Rachel? One of the major problems that all our residents have is miscollections and delay collections. Do you have any sort of figures or any idea of what the delays or miscollections are currently? The other thing is about fly tipping. Obviously, part of the problem about enforcing fly tipping is very much similar as what Councillor Black said about NRW, a fine organisation that does very little. But the reality of the situation is we have got lots of fly tipping, and we must find ways of just getting rid of that and actually discouraging it. So if the two issues there are in somewhat connected, because if people find they've missed a collection, they may dump it somewhere. So I think there's a very important issues there that we need to discuss. And it is also about recycling, because a lot of the stuff that's dumped, an example of fly tipping is when people maybe have a new kitchen and the person's taken it away, dumps it somewhere, all that timber can possibly be recycled. So we have got issues surrounding that, and I was wondering if you could give us any answers on that.
Happy to. If you're okay, miscollection data, I'll give in writing to the committee. You know, we'll, in terms of where the service was a year ago, I think, you know, we're confident we can say it's far more stable and better performing than it was. Whole variety of reasons for that, but I got to say thanks to the management in the service and also the crews for their response to some of the changes we have brought in. In terms of fly tipping, council last week have approved a significant increase in fly tipping budget, actually 200% increase. So we are going to be looking, Fran and I will be working on, you know, a bit of a new strategy to increase our enforcement capacity, but also education and engagement capacity. And that leads on to then the things that you're talking about. If somebody is just given their waste to somebody, actually it's the householders who are responsible. There's a duty of care. Most people might not be aware of that. They know they have to give it to somebody who's licensed, you know, and all of these. So this is where, you know, we'll be looking over the next, you know, up to the summer to get in place a lot, you know, quite a significant, you know, we're talking at least a doubling of the workforce, if not plus now, and also that engagement. And, you know, we will be wanting to do joint initiatives with NRW and also with the police, because, you know, we can do stop and search initiatives to check that people have got the appropriate licenses when they're out and about. That happens now, but probably not as often as we'd like, to really try and raise the profile to reduce the fly tipping. So it'd be interesting to come back maybe in a year or two to see the impact we've got.
I think we really do need to think about the scrutinising of the because fly tipping is it's a disaster for everywhere, you know, not just every ward and every part of the city. So I think it is important that we look at that, and it's nice to see that you will have that. So possibly in 6 months' time we can come back and report a fantastic success and some prosecutions, which would be very nice, because then the public can see that we are taking action against them.
Just to go on from Rachel, I'm quite happy now. We know that enforcement was badly understaffed, but we've secured 4 extra staff plus surveillance cameras, so that they're going to be using them as well to help us to stop these fly tipping and gather the evidence. But as you know yourself, Chair, that people know who's doing it and they are reporting to us, but when we ask for a statement, they're afraid of giving statements because of retaliation. So, but I think things will be improving. Well, I will want, and I know Rachel will be the same opinion, that we want a good improvement on it.
Thank you, sir. Michael?
I think this question has been already partially answered. What are we doing about these illegal operators who advertise on Facebook and they come along and take away your waste, and then they're not licensed, and then they just dump it somewhere?
And this is where it needs that joint approach. It does need a partnership, because we've only got so many powers. And if it's large scale operation, quite often that can be the front of some other activity going on as well, which is why the police have to be involved. Trading standards need to be involved in terms of the selling and what they're advertising, and also then NRW in terms of the scale. If it's large scale fly tipping, like a commercial, a mini unlicensed tip, they are responsible for that. That doesn't fall within our jurisdiction or our powers. So it's quite, you know, it's a complicated landscape, but I think we definitely be looking to formalise those structures over the next year with the additional resource. The service has been reactive with the investment. I'm hoping we can turn it onto a more strategic footing, work better with the partnerships, but also have more local initiatives, particularly working with the HRA and some of the other housing associations as well. Publicity campaigns and comms, as you said, advertising when we've got prosecutions. But I will say a lot of the evidence coming through, particularly the black bag type fly tipping, doesn't have evidence in.
Yeah.
You know, we need names and addresses, or we need witnesses and people to come forward, or doorbell footage or car cam footage, and having that ability to link it to somebody, because particular of note, the fly tipping, it's criminal, it's got that it's got a higher threshold for being able to go to court that we're faced with. So it's not without its challenges, but we do know that there is room for improvement.
Thank you, Rachel. Matthew?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. And I know we've gone slightly off on a tangent here for the recycling annual performance monitoring report, but I think it's important that obviously we as an authority are serious about tackling the illegal activity of fly tipping. That also there's that cross-border working with other authorities, because a lot of the time the waste comes from other authorities as well, and the sharing of information with other authorities as well. You know, I think the fixed penalty notices are a one-time offer. So, if for argument's sake, if an officer in Carmarthenshire Council issues a fixed penalty for fly tipping under Section 33 of the Environmental Protection Act, then if that individual is caught then in Swansea, should they get, you know, a second bite of the cherry with another fixed penalty, or should it just be a straight summons to court? So, you know, I think we really need to be pulling, you know, sort of bordering authorities in this as well, and looking to see who's doing what. Again, vehicle seizures are a really, really strong tool that the local authority can have, and it instantly takes that person, if they are suspected of fly tipping and we do have evidence, it takes that vehicle off the road until such a time either that, you know, we get a ruling in the court where we can destroy the vehicle, or, you know, if we unfortunately sometimes have to hand the vehicle back.
Thank you, Matthew. And can you answer that, Rachel?
I think that's something, you know, there is a national group which Fran primarily attends, and I think that's you know, we need to look into, and I completely agree, you know, we need to be able to have that framework for information intelligence sharing. I just want to ensure that we've got all of the GDPR, everything buttoned down. So if there's some best practice which we can learn from, I want, you know, ask Fran to take it to that all Wales level, because we need to have information sharing with the police and NRW as well. So I think that is something that's really important to help us to get better locally. So I'll ask her to pick that up nationally.
Thank you very much, Rachel. Any further comments or questions? If not, can I thank you very much? Okay. Right. The next item is on the agenda is the work plan. What I'm suggesting is for next, maybe not the next section, but definitely in the new year, that the Swiss Cottage building in the Singleton Park be added to the projects, and possibly even Home Farm, because that actually would link into the future of Singleton Park and the buildings in it. And that's the work plan. Any comments on that? No? Anyone? And then finally are the letters that we've sent and received. All okay? Well, thank you all very much for your attendance here this morning, and keep dry. Oh no, it didn't rain in for a change. Okay, thank you all. Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye all.